a fascinating, complicated building, and in order to investigate the leakage, investigate the heat loss and help the owner fix it, you need to do things like thermal imaging surveys, air tightness testing. You've got the 3 windows on the first floor and they're all different.
Yeah.
It's leaking, and then that middle window in particular on the left side. We've also, and this is an unusual case here, we've got an old doorway, which although it's been boarded up inside the office, when you look at it from the outside, there's incredible heat loss on it.
Today we're hoping to complete the air tightness on the 3 windows upstairs in our kitchen stroke lounge, and we're also hoping to complete the air tightness of a disused exterior door in the passageway behind us.
Yeah, that was the one where we discovered we were paying to heat the alleyway.
We've picked these 2 areas to start with, really because they're relatively simple. One of the other things we saw is how bad the front of the building is. But that's quite a big deal, changing your shop front. You know, what we're taking here is relatively, I don't know, several £100s of materials, a couple of days, 3 days of labour. You know, that's not huge.
It's definitely going to make a difference in the front room, because those windows leak like hell, don't they?
Yeah, they whistle.
It's not just energy, it's also noise.
Yes,
you know, we've got a very busy road here. And this door in the
Oh, the old
yeah,
door.
that is cold air. That will make a difference to the comfort of my staff.
I am assisting Paul Jennings in applying the air tightness techniques that he's brought down with him, including the tapes, the primers, the fillers and the insulation.
To seal up our redundant door, we're basically proposing to use this blow-proof air tightness paint, which goes on blue and dries black, which is very useful. 2 coats of that. But because that's limited to gaps less than 5mm, before we can use that, we have to fix those gaps, cracks around the door frame, and we're using this gap filling mortar. So we've already wide brushed the brickwork and the edge of the door so we get a good key for this to seal to. So down the side of the door frame, particularly, this one's much worse this side.
It is, we might need some
and
more.
at the top.
Okay,
and I'll leave you to that. So we're in the front room of Joe and Ian's flat above the office with these 3 windows which we discovered are very leaky. Although they're not actually the windows that are leaky, it's the leaks between the window frame and the wall where the previous sash windows were. So that's one of the things we're trying to tackle. The main thing really is these gaps. We've got a big gap along the bottom, gaps here which get smaller as it goes down. You see about there, I can no longer get this surveyor's rod in because it's got narrower. And similarly on this side, which patently proves the window opening isn't square, which would be typical.
We were really shocked when we took the surrounds off, the double glazing that was fitted 10 years ago, to find that there was absolutely no tapes, no foam, nothing.
Nothing.
I was really quite angry about that, actually.
This is going to be sealed with air tightness tape. This is our preferred one, the Profil one. And the reason we like this one is because you have a split backing. And that means we can take part of the backing off. So we can put that part onto the window itself and the rest onto the surroundings. And that makes it easier to get a better seal and to avoid bits of air tightness tape showing up afterwards. But before we can do that, we need to basically fill the hole. So what we're going to use for that is these assorted sizes of what's known as backing rod. This is quite a big one. That's 15mm, which we're going to need for most of this gap across the bottom of the window, but not all of it. Then we have the next size up, 10mm, and we have a smaller one, 8mm, and then we have the white one, silicone one, which is the smallest lot, and also it's stretchy so you can get it even into narrower. So this will be used in the smallest gaps, and some of this gap here is so narrow we won't get anything in, we'll just be taping over it. So basically our next activity is to cut the foam to size, select the right size for the different gaps and put it in. Already the gap is widening so fast that it's loose at the top. So that's about as far as I can use that one. Go to the next size up. What I'm now going to do is glue these bottom ones in. So we have this primer from Proclima, which is beautiful. And also we have the hole where the pulley for the sash cord was, which is quite a big air leak. I'm just going to put a piece of the bigger backing rod in there and apply some air tightness tape over it. I mean, the tape will cover this, but of course there's always movement down the line, so a bit of seal behind the tape is more robust. You can actually see daylight here. There's a hole right the way through to outside. Where we're going to tape, we want to make sure there's no bits. So we're going to hoover across the bottom in particular. So now this window is ready for taping. But for ease, we're going to make what we call our preformed corners for the 4 corners, so then we can just run a long length of tape in between them. The door is basically a wooden door in a wooden frame in a brick wall. So the strategy is to fill the big gaps with a mortar compound, a filling compound, and then to paint the whole of the door with one of these relatively new air tightness paints. So paints that you apply liquid and they dry and they deliver an airtight surface. As you paint it, it's blue, a dark blue, then as it dries it goes black. So you know where it's dry. And since you need to put 2 coats on, that's quite useful. And then after that's all dried, we're going to add some insulation and add some boarding to make it permanent. So we're making preformed corners to go around this window. We're folding it to give us a positioning, and then we're cutting the tape. So you can see here the backing strip. And now we take one of these off, one of these backing strips, whichever one's easier. So you can either do these as internal corners or external corners. Right, but we want this where the backing paper is to be stuck to the window. So that means we're folding it, we're turning that onto there, 90 degrees. And now we've got a preformed corner that we can apply to the window. And we need 4 of those basically. So now we have to apply them to the window. The key thing is getting it in as tight as you can and pressing it on to the window frame to seal it. So that's one, tight into the corner, backing tape off. And as before, we're going to start on the window and then do the narrow strip on the window, because that's the bit that's critical. That's the bit where if you get it wrong, you'll have blue showing after you put your plasterboard on the window reveal or after you put your covering strip on. So that's the critical bit. You get that on the window first, and then you've got much more scope here because we know this has all got to be covered. the beauty of this is you can just pull a bit of the backing strip at a time. Across the window. So I'm basically going to use the press fix tool to push it into the corner in the bottom of the window, which is actually where the foam is. So we've finished taping up the 3 windows in this living room, and the immediately obvious thing is how much quieter it is when the windows are shut. The traffic's going past like it has been all day, but it's barely noticeable, which is amazing. So now it's the finishing off process. We've done the air tightness, now it's the appearance. The cover strips, they're making it look nice.
It's incredible. I actually thought maybe there were no cars outside. It made such a big difference. I've lived with those windows leaking for so long without realising. I just thought they were rubbish windows. Well, and in actual fact, the air tightness has boosted their performance immeasurably.
Okay. So if we trim a 300 and get a bit of a curve, and then 60 on the width.
We've trimmed and cut insulation to size, fitted that, retained it with 2 wooden battens. Voila. And refitted a plywood door that was masking it in the first place, and that went very well. It looks daunting, but to be honest, I am no DIY expert, and I think anybody with a reasonable level of do-it-yourself skill could do this. We're gaining confidence in how to carry out air tightness so we can continue on the rest of the house.
Yeah, and I'm really, really keen to actually show this to other people, to show that they can actually do it themselves. They don't need to get a professional in to do it per se. It's something that everybody can do relatively cheaply to improve the standard and air tightness of their home.